consent agenda, minutes, payrolls, and claims. Do I hear a motion on those?
Motion.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Audience comments, nobody signed up. Nobody has a comment now at this time. And we'll move right on to regular reports then.
Before I do my report, I'm gonna read this little disclaimer.
Oh, yes.
For the audio visual recording. It can also be found on our website, and this will be the only time I read it at a board meeting. The rest of the time you can just refer to it there. When you participate in an HBPW Board of Directors meeting, public hearing, public meeting, or other public events, you may be participating in an occasion where photography, video, and audio recording will occur. By participating in these meetings, you consent to the interviews, photography, audio recording, video recording, its/their release, publication, exhibition, or reproduction to be used for news, webcast, promotional purposes, telecast, advertising, inclusion on websites, or for any other purpose or purposes that the HBPW Board and representatives deems fit to use. You release the HBPW Board, its officers and employees, and all of its personnel involved form any liability connected to taking, recording, digitizing, or publication of interviews, photographs, computer images, video, and/or sound recordings. By entering the premises, you waive all rights you may have to any claims for payment or royalties in connection with any expedition, streaming, webcasting, televising, or any other publication of these materials, regardless of the purpose or sponsoring of such exhibiting, broadcasting, webcasting, or other publication, irrespective of whether a fee for admission or sponsorship is charged. You also waive any right to inspect or approve any photo, video, or audio recording taken by the HBPW Board from the person or entity designated to do so by the HBPW Board. It will fully inform of your consent, waiver of liability, and release before participating in the HBPW Board. Well, that was lawyer ease. It was suggested that we just read it for our first meeting that we're video recording, and from then on, it'll just be on our website. And notice at the bottom of the agenda, there's a little asterisk referring to it, and I believe it's posted on the board up there.
Did you
None
write
of that
that?
is,
Is that?
he did not.
Did you write that?
No, I did not.
He got it much cheaper than
Quite,
any.
quite verbose. I didn't cut it down. I'm glad I didn't read it myself, so that's why you could. All right, well, it's a new era.
Well, on to regular.
Here's that.
Just a few items in my report to point out. We had a follow-up customer service training that focused on mostly customer interactions over the phone. It included our skate operators, business office staff, and a lot of our supervisory personnel, mostly the people that talk to customers on the phone. Also, Mark Hickerson, the supervisor in charge of the SCADA personnel, and Emily Dexheimer, in charge of the business office staff, had a follow-up call coaching training as well. They could just learn proper ways of coaching people on phone call interactions. So according to the outside contractors helping us with that, Major X, we've made some improvements since that initial October company-wide training we had. So we're just going to continue to try to improve in that area.
What did an improvement mean?
What they did is they surveyed some of our customers, like maybe 20 or 30, just called them directly and asked them questions. They did that as well in October. They also did some phone calls to our office, fake customer calls. I think in October they even did a walk-in sign for service. So their measure of between then and now, we improved some. They didn't want to give we're not perfect, we didn't drastically improve, just some improvement.
Yeah.
There's some small things we're still trying to emphasize, like using our name each time when somebody calls in, hello, my name is Heath, how can I help you? Using the customer's name, just stuff like that. It's kind of habit forming that they've suggested and we're working on. For the Proposition S public outreach, we began that basically the first week of February. We've done 3 service club presentations so far. Matt and Andrea did did the bulk of the speaking of those and did very well. We actually have one tonight as well. And basically about 1 to 2 meetings each week between now and the end of March. The two kind of most important ones that I mentioned you guys a couple times are the 2 meetings at City Hall, public education meetings, one on the 20th of March, one on the 28th, starting at 6:30 p.m. So if you guys can attend those, that would be great. Some of the same information that you've seen presented by Black and Beach here at board meetings and by us will be presented kind of for the public, and we'll take some questions as well. Carrie has been asked to join APPA's Customer Connections Conference Committee. It's a pretty big deal. I have not attended a Customer Connections Conference, but Carrie has went to a couple of them. I think Courtney went to one before. It's mostly bigger utilities. We have a communications department. Carrie got asked through MPUA to be on that committee, and so she's volunteered to do that. It's about a 2-year commitment. Right now, she will be the vice chair of that committee starting this spring. So,
Thank you, Carrie.
In the electric department, our outages were kind of average, maybe slightly above average for January. Basically had one day on the 12th of January that had a storm that contributed to about half our outages. Water crew had a busy month, probably because I talked about no frozen meters during last month's meeting. We literally had one day after the meeting. They ended up with about 24 calls for the month of January, and about 12 of those are actually a frozen meter in the pit on our side. So those have slowed down, when the weather improved a little bit. Those slowed down quite a bit. Most significant leak we had, and this wasn't actually during January, this was the first month of February. I wanted to mention it. Was at Bird and Levering. A pretty good leak right there on the south side of Mark Twain School. Luckily, the school was not in business that day, so did not affect them. Also, did not affect our repairs because there's no traffic, so that was very helpful. But due to the volume of water leaking and how long it took us to valve it off, several dozen customers lost pressure, not just in the area right around the leak, but some lost pressure like in Hummingbird area, Hillcrest area, area near Loeb's Restaurant. The kind of reason they lost pressure is because they're kind of on the outskirts of that pressure zone, outer edges, they're high elevations, a lot of times they're at a dead end. So as the water got pulled towards the leak, it got pulled away from them. So they were included in the boil order. One of the communication tools we use is Carrie was able to, within a couple hours of the leak, and we started getting phone calls from people who were not near the leak, she was able to put stuff on our social media sites to notify customers prior to when we were able to call the boil order. So most of the time you don't call a boil order until you actually fix the leak. And then the boil order starts then, and 48 hours from then it's over. In the sewer department, we had one SSO, and that was kind of our own doing. One of the unintended consequences of putting in the new bar screens. We were removing more solids, but we caused a little bit of a backup in our G&D building, overflowed. Georgia's looking at ways of preventing this from occurring again. One of our ideas is hooking the influent pumps up to a level sensor in the channel prior to the bar screen, so if the level raises up to X, we can shut the pumps off or alarm something. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Both treatment plants had some minor cold weather issues with equipment, nothing unusual. And last thing I got is kind of interesting. This is the 1-year anniversary of our mobile workforce stuff that we're doing with iPads mostly, with our service orders, our mapping, with our field crew personnel. About a year ago this month we went live with that. And we've continued to increase how we're using it. We're using photos, of course videos, vehicle inspection reports, Jared's using a tree trimming report, and there's a few others. But we have a fellow utility in Austin, Minnesota, that is going to come later this month for a couple days and basically sit with Matthew and Emily and some of the other staff and see how we're using it, because they're interested in doing similar. So it's kind of a big deal to have somebody looking over our shoulder and maybe copying what we're doing instead of most of the time we're copying somebody else. So. Good job, Matthew. I believe that's all I have, unless there are questions about that stuff or anything else.
No questions? No. Thanks, Heath. Move on to the financial report.
We're gonna break it in.
Fancy podium here. I'm official now. Let's see, the first page of the packet is, as always, the balance sheet. The balance sheet was very consistent. The assets are almost unchanged from last month and up about 1.6% from a year ago. The next page is January compared to budget. January's company-wide net income was about 18% less than budget, driven by an unfavorable budget variance in operating revenues in the electric fund. Though we had a couple of cold days at the end of the month, most of the month was warmer than historical average temperatures, and kilowatt-hour sales of electricity were about 12% lower than the same month last year. Kilowatt-hour sales to our top 10 industrial customers were only down about 5%, causing me to believe that much of the variance was weather-related. Water fund results were very close to budget, and sewer fund results were negatively affected by a combination of lower than budgeted operating revenues and higher than budgeted operating expenses. The next page back is January compared to last year. Year-over-year comparisons in the electric fund continue to be skewed because of the large storm relief efforts last winter, which caused operating expenses in the electric fund to be much lower than typical. Purchase power costs are higher this year compared to last year, which mirrors the higher per megawatt hour costs we're seeing in the MISO marketplace compared to a year ago. Results in the water and sewer funds are generally consistent year over year, and the variances largely offset each other. The next page is fiscal year-to-date compared to budget. 7 months into the new fiscal year, company-wide net income is about 24% below budget. This is being entirely driven by the electric fund, as the water and sewer fund's net income in total is about 14% more than budgeted. The electric fund's results reflect unfavorable budget variances in operating revenues, power supply costs, and operating expenses. Fiscal year-to-date electric operating revenues and power supply costs are both within about 2% of budget. However, both variances are unfavorable, and the total effect of these is about $450,000. Even though the percentages are small, the numbers are so large that in total it adds up. Also, fiscal year-to-date expenses related to the diesel generators, tree trimming, and maintenance expenses, and professional services are more than budgeted. Over the remainder of the fiscal year, some or all of these variances will likely smooth themselves out, and we continue to have a solid year financially. Depreciation expense in the electric fund is higher than budgeted due to depreciation on the diesel generators. When I created the budget last year, I assumed a 20-year life and remaining life in the diesels, but the auditors set them up to depreciate over 10 years, which is the life of the capital lease we took out to finance them. So I'm more conservative. That's why the depreciation expense is higher than we think any average accountant could budget for depreciation. But I was off on that one.
So depreciation expense aside on the generators, what's their actual useful life?
I'd say 20 to 50 years, honestly. The ones in Palmyra we looked at were from the 1950s. They were submarine engines, like Korean War era. So, these things maintained and stored in a weather-protected way that they are should last the rest of my life, honestly.
Okay.
At least the rest of my career, not the rest of my life. If I'm wrong, Jared, please holler at me.
Good correct.
And they'll always be expensive in terms of being a source of electricity, though.
The source of energy that will be, much more expensive than current sources.
Right.
In terms of capacity, they're in line with what we've seen in recent history,
Right.
and not today. The next page is fiscal year date compared to last year. Company-wide net income is about 37% less than the same time period last year, due mostly to lower operating revenues, higher purchase power costs, and the lack of storm relief efforts. I should say because in the electric fund due to those factors. Results in the water and sewer funds are significantly improved from last year to date, driven by increases in operating revenues more than offsetting increases in operating expenses. Kind of in summary, though our company-wide results are below budget, we have several months left to go in the fiscal year. In my opinion, the results are acceptable. The next few pages are cash targets and cash reserves. Cash reserves are steady. Wanted to point out that the cash we're showing in the water fund reflects the approximately $1.1 million we've spent so far out of pocket on the GAC project. I also included this month a list of our investments and the rates we're earning on those. It was something that we were encouraged to do by our financial advisors, part of best practice for board reporting, that kind of thing.
So the 2.5 doesn't, that includes the 1.1 million?
Yes. That's after paying that out.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I use a 6-month rolling average, so I think we paid a couple 300,000 a month or so ago. So that will, be felt more going forward, but, yep. The next page is the dashboard. I'm generally happy with the direction of our cash reserves. Company-wide net income is presented percentage budget. Company-wide, we're at 76% budget net income. And unit sales compared to their 5-year average. Kilowatt hour sales of electricity are down a little bit compared to 5-year average. The water and sewer are strong. That's the financial package. I came armed with my budget and audit this month in case I get asked. Purchase power costs are $15.7 million. They budgeted, they reflect 65% of local fund operating expenses and 45% of company-wide operating expenses.
Bring a calculator too.
Well, I wrote it out in my little budget thing.
Okay.
There's nothing more humiliating than an accountant being asked a simple arithmetic question and stumbling over his mental math.
Oh, I promise you, you were the only one who remembered it after that moment.
It's like Michael Jordan missing a layup. Anyway. You guys any questions, please?
Questions?
Thank you.
Sir?
Thanks, Dave.
Projects report?
This hand is worn off.
Yeah. Haven't been very sunny since I've been back.
Yeah,
The SRF project, I've been in contact with DNR a couple times over the last week or so. They're finalizing the review, and hopefully before next month's board meeting, we'll have the final 2 documents that need to be completed to close out that project. At the water treatment plant, the GAC project, y'all awarded it to River City Construction last month at the board meeting. We had a project kickoff meeting on the 5th of February. Here's kind of the preliminary time schedule for what the contractor's looking to do. There are a few minor changes, but wanted to get that, or put that up so you all could look at it. If you have any questions, we could dive
So
into it.
14 days in, are we on time?
To be honest, since I printed it the other day, I haven't looked at it, but I think we are. They're planning on moving equipment and supplies to the plant during this month, and then kicking off a lot of the construction stuff next month. So I think we're right on schedule. So
Hopefully a little better weather.
yeah, hopefully get some better weather. Again, we're waiting for better weather as well for the Warren Barrett tank repaint. I look for it to maybe take off first part of April. So, even though we've had some bad weather during the past month, the sewer crew's been busy working on addressing some of the issues that we found, or that were found by Trek in the downtown SSO project area. We've got some new equipment in-house, so we can do point repairs on some larger line under Mark Twain Avenue. That'll allow us to make a few repairs that they found were necessary without having to close down a lane of Mark Twain Avenue and dig it up. This will just require us to close it down for about an hour or two, set the repair, allow it time for it to cure, and then we can pull the equipment out, and we don't have to worry about pavement repair or anything like that. So all said and done, I think the additional equipment and materials cost about $6,000. If we did any digging in Mark Twain Avenue, we would have been way through that. So we're also using the Mr. Manhole product to raise chimneys on the line that comes from the levee back to Wilson Street. This is something the crew was able to do here in-house. Went out in the field, took measurements of what needed to be poured. They bought some sono tube, poured the chimney sections here in-house, and then as weather allows, we're going to get out there and put those new chimney sections on to seal them up. So we won't have really one point of potential leakage, and that's at the interface of the cone section with this new chimney section. We're putting bolted, gasketed manhole lids on there, and we're starting with the manholes that are affected by river level first. So working up to a river level of approximately 30 feet, I think is what we're looking at. We do have some to complete out in the streets that we will do, probably first thing this spring, once we start doing manhole raising.
So how many feet are you looking at doing on Mark Twain Avenue? Is it just like 5 or 6 feet?
It's,
Get a spot and then,
2 to 4 feet is what our repairs are.
Okay.
So I think a couple of them are 2-foot repairs and a couple of them are 4-foot repairs.
it's mostly just where people's, or
There are some
businesses-
close to sewer taps. That's one thing that's kind of been holding us up from doing that, is we got to get access to a couple buildings to dye services to make sure we're not gonna, complete a repair over an active tap.
Yeah.
But then again, some of it's at a joint on the clay tile pipe where it's just broken out and allowed, groundwater to enter. Another thing for the SSO project is we submitted our yearly report, as required when we signed an agreement with them back in 2012. We would update them yearly on what our progress was, what we completed during that year, and what we plan on completing in the upcoming year. Paxton Street, area, we, haven't done much in that area in the past year. We're starting to see more and more, runtime on our lift station pumps. So we're gonna make that a focus again this spring. We're gonna take and locate all the active services, and then we're going to use the point repair kits and seal off any of the inactive services. They did a lot of demo of old buildings and stuff, especially in the Irwin Street area. And so we just want to seal them off and make sure that we get that taken care of. So that's something we're going to be focusing on. Another thing we're going to be doing, hopefully within the next month, is sending out a letter requesting that property owners disconnect any sump pumps that they may have connected. Hopefully we can do that. We can see some improvement without having to do home-to-home inspection. But ultimately, if that's needed, then we'll have to move forward that way. So, and the Trek area, or the Surrey Hills area, they're still monitoring the flow meters to try to identify any more sump pumps. So.
Do you have any idea how many are out there?
It varies. I mean, I think in the Lake Apollo area we did a few years ago, we had roughly 600 homes, and we had 19 sump pumps that we found. So.
Do people tend to self-report? It doesn't seem likely in my head.
They may do that rather than have you come in their house. We have some idea where there are some, but until we get to that point where we can go in and do inspections, then we can't say for sure, but it's a first step. So in this area, we hired RJN Group to smoke test and do manhole inspections. It's probably been about 5 years ago. To this point, we've done a majority of the items that they found on the public side of things. Everything else is private, you know, service lines, sump pumps, that type of thing. So.
Suppose the older the-
In that Lake Apollo area, we needed to replace water meters in anyway, and most of them are indoors, so we kind of did a combination, replaced the water meter for a sump pump. That's probably not gonna work in the Patchen Street area. I think all the meters are generally outside and also.
Do older homes typically, are they more likely to have a sump put into the line, or is, there's no rhyme or reason?
There's no rhyme or reason. Somebody
A particular developer that,
It may be a particular developer, it may be they had it discharging into the yard and they got tired of not being able to mow this wet spot, so they said, we connect it here, it disappears, and we don't have to worry about it, so. But we're hoping, you know, just through continued education that we can hopefully overcome that. But nothing's to say, since even if we do inspect it and they do remove it, they may at some point put it back on there, or the next owners may, or, so. That's all I've got, unless y'all have any more questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, on to old business, hiring of a bond rating agency.
Items that need to be here will kind of run together as far as updating on financing. As you can imagine, hiring rating agency is an essential part of the bond issuing process. Due to a variety of factors, Standard & Poor's has been deemed to be the best rating agency for us. There's only a handful in the country that are in a position to rate such bonds. The fact that we're gonna get insurance on our bonds and do insured reserve and some other little things make that Standard & Poor's the best choice for us, based on input of our financial advisor, Joey. So this time we ask you, the board, to authorize or retain Standard & Poor's Global Ratings as our rating agency. Unless there are questions or discussion, so.
I make motion.
Okay, good second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is just an updated time frame for the water bond sale. We had a meeting late last week. Joey Howard came to town, met with me, Heath, and City Manager Lagarce for a several-hour ratings call preparation. We dug into the nuances of the different questions the rating agencies are expected to ask and that kind of thing. We anticipate having a call, I believe, is it late next week or early the week after that, based on
March 1st each, somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
So we're generally on the time frame here that is in your packet. As I believe we talked about a couple times, and there's no action request at this time from the board, just trying to keep you guys in the loop as to where things are heading. We still plan on selling the bonds, middle of April, the closing at the end of April, which should match reasonably well with our construction cycle. Is there
I think
anything?
if you'll notice that second page of the schedule in the middle of April is a possible special meeting. Julie's got that in the schedule because, it takes a couple of readings of city council meetings, so she's trying to make us do the special meeting. That way it schedules around the city council approvals. That's pretty close to the time we'll be doing budget workshop and stuff like that too, so Abe has an idea of maybe doing that at the same time, or.
Maybe, my thought was to make you guys' lives as efficient as possible, not drag you out here for multiple meetings. I thought we could do a budget workshop early afternoon followed by a regular meeting, bring up regular time type of thing.
So you're saying that's a day we should definitely put on our calendar right now?
I'm not sure I go that
I'm
far.
not sure yet, but during our March meeting, we'll be asking for
Yeah. As
a
these times,
tentative schedule for that.
Cool.
things are moving along fine on the financing side of things. Gilmore and Bell, the bond council, has been generating a remarkable quantity of paperwork for us, and Joey Howard has too, and so that's where we're standing.
So there hasn't been really any delays over what we thought?
No,
Looking at in terms of timeframe,
Maybe 2 weeks.
yeah, I was thinking it was a month longer, but maybe not. that
We were
long.
thinking kind of mid-March to mid-April, we'd close.
Yeah.
We, we get finally the final numbers, which dictate the size of the bond sale we could do, the bank qualified. Gives us the $10 million we were able to stick with. So it's been delayed by about 2 weeks, but still in the overall realm that we were expecting.
No rate hikes since then, I think we
Well,
kind of slowed down on that.
I mean, if this was real wood, I'd knock on it, but
Yeah.
rates have actually, long-term bond rates have decreased about
Okay.
1/5% since we started talking about rates about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
So now that I've said that, we'll see a reversal of
Wow. Can't believe you did that.
Yeah, that was dangerous. I was feeling the hubris of my token in here. Joey Howard tentatively expects in the high 3s, low 4s interest rates. And that's before we get our rating and anything, so 3.85 to 4.25, 25-year bond is what we're expecting. We expect to receive an investment grade rating, like a triple B, and other finance and other terms.
Okay.
The lowest of the best, in other words.
Mhm.
Is that because of our debt to assets ratio?
That's big, yeah, we have some major headwinds, not some major, some of the challenges to our rating will be the debt to, the indebtedness of the water fund, tacking $10 million onto the existing $11-ish million. The demographics of Hannibal, the slow population, the, decrease in population in the last 30 years.
When they do the ratings, do they explain to us like their formula?
Oh, no.
No, that's all proprietary.
It's like a FICO score. We
Okay.
kind of understand, or Joey Howard tried to teach us on some of these things. number of days of cash you have on hand. You know, if you have more than this, it's a better, more is better type of thing. Just the simple straight size of our utility, bigger utilities, typically better ratings. I think they assume a deeper bench of management, that kind of thing. You know, economic trends, median household income, population growth, industry growth.
So, rural town in the Midwest is.
Yeah, our rates, percentage of median household income, you know, all those factors. It's, you know, it's a credit score, kind of like any other, just, no, it's a proprietary algorithm that, you know, Standard & Poor's would chase me down if I knew. But we know some of the key things that play into it.
Alright, and, yeah, no, that's all I got.
What was our rating for the $11 million project, the last one?
It was unrated. Water was no rating.
Oh,
It's kind of like the podium here is branded.
How about the sewer?
okay.
The sewer fund had a rating for the 2013 bond. It started off, it was rated by Moody's, so the terms, triple B and blah, 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 don't exactly match up. But it initially came in as investment grade, the lowest investment grade, but then it subsequently increased because Moody's changed their algorithm. They just called us up 4 years ago and said, hey, good news, your bond rating went up. That was reaffirmed again last fall. So like in the fall of 2014, bond rating came up. It's now one notch above where it was initially. And then they reaffirmed that last fall. So the sewer fund, however, was issuing $6 million of debt with almost no existing debt. So there's some other stuff to mention. The indebtedness of the water fund is significantly higher than the sewer fund was 5 years ago.
We do have a little reserve, so I guess.
Yep,
that works
reserves
in our
are
favor, so.
You know, with similar type management's employees, our overall business model was identical to what it was then. So we,
I think our cash reserve policy and the fact that we have a 5-year rate plan helps. Because those are the things you asked for last time we had it developed, like before the rating. Kind of already got those.
we have a 20-year plan too, you know, the water system assessment. Joey, our financial advisor, feels like we have a very strong management team. You know, he has a good track record here. Obviously, the overall utility is well run. We have good pricing position. You know, some of those things.
Sanders, a self-described Democratic socialist, vowing not only to defeat President Trump, but reshape the country.
So, yeah, the reserves definitely played a big role in the overall health of our balance sheet.
They do. For what it's worth, we have like 170 days of cash in the water fund. Top-rated utilities have like 300 days. And there's an arbitrary, not arbitrary, but there's straight amount of cash, $5 million. If you have more than $5 million in total cash, you consider it better, which.
Just one of those level up sort of deals.
It is, yeah, just if you can bench press 300 pounds, you're strong, I guess.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's just some kind of little benchmark that I asked our financial advisor, I said, should that scale with the size of the utility? And she said,
Just a range.
it's just a stake in the sand with the rating agency, hey, more than $5 million, you know, thumbs up type thing.
So if you don't need money, then you can borrow them.
That's the old banker adage.
Yeah.
The bank is happy loaning, you don't need it.
There.